STEM helps us tackle issues of people. It helps us tackle issues of community. It helps us tackle issues of generational harm, and that is justice. So I think at its core, STEM can help us advance justice. Thank you.
I'm going to hand off this panel to my co-conspirator, Dr. Flagstaff. However, I want to just ask that you all give this panel a round of applause. The issues here, I cannot overstate how important the issues here are. For you to gain the skills and the knowledge, and then to be able to deploy that in service to not just your communities, but the world, because these are issues that are just not going to go away. We've got to think about the humanity of our fields, not just the fields themselves. And so, but the other thing that I will just mention that I was struck by, that in so many cases, we're used to talking about having expertise. When you first started looking, there was no expertise by anybody. You had to start that. So you didn't find your passion found you. And I think that sometimes we just have to latch on to what finds us. Because I don't think that Bob, there was no field of environmental justice. And there was nothing for the rest of you to build on, because it wasn't. But to create this base, this foundation is absolutely critically important. Okay, Iris.
Thank you, thank you. This plenary definitely exceeded my vision. And the whole purpose of this panel was really, especially for the students in the room, to demonstrate how the STEM expertise that you are developing can be used to address issues in your community, issues that you care about, and issues globally. So just the usability and capability of STEM and the endless power of what you are developing now. You don't have to wait until you graduate. You don't have to wait until you finish graduate school, but the expertise that you're building right now, you can start addressing issues in your community. So just let's give the panel another round of applause before we start Q&A. So we have a few minutes for Q&A. We wanted to make the presentation short so we would have time to get as many questions in as possible. So we have 4 mic stands in the back. So if you can start making your way to the mic stands, there should be 4 across here, and we can start taking Q&A and try to get in as many as possible. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am Kyra Harvey. I'm a second semester junior at Virginia State University. And one of my questions for the panel, I had 2. One was, how do you connect with your community? As a Black girl, I find it kind of hard coming from the community that I'm in, or the community that surrounds me. I kind of feel like Black people kind of get, I'm not gonna say everyone, but some of us get kind of stuck in that struggle mindset. So how do we connect with these communities that are stuck in that mindset that they can't be in these spaces? How do we connect with them to make them know that what we're talking about regarding STEM is important to them as well?
Let me just say, thank you for your question. All you have to do is pull out your phone, Google environmental justice, HBCU climate change consortium, or Google NBEJN, National Black Environmental Justice Network. These are organizations that are in our communities. They serve our communities. They work with lots of organizations and community folks. And if you're not, if there's no organization that's in your community, start one. And I'm co-chair of the National Black Environmental Justice Network. I'm co-chair of the HBCU Climate Change Consortium. We've had eight HBCU Climate Change Consortium conferences in New Orleans. our HBCU consortium put on the first climate justice pavilion at the United Nations COP27 that was in Egypt. We took a huge delegation to Egypt. So we can start in the community and find out what are the issues. Who are the organizations, churches, neighborhood associations. So don't look for a group that's got environment in their name and think you're just gonna have to deal with them. Work with community groups. And lastly, Google my name. Google my name and you'll see some groups that we work with, and you may find somebody, a group organization that's near you that you can contact directly.
Gentleman over here in the black.
Hello? Okay, there it is. Thank you. Dr. Fareed Dewan, Southern University, Baton Rouge. I'm not a student, so forgive me, but I am a student, if you know what I mean. Always learning. This question is for Dr. Bullard. Can you share with us some of your strategies for churning out so many books in, I guess, such a relatively short time? Because we know you have a life outside of that, but how do you do that?
Magic. No, I write every day. I tell my students, if you want to write, you have to write something every day. And if you don't write it, all you have to do now is speak into your phone, voice to text. Write something every day, even if it's just one line. And if you keep doing that, you know, in a week, you got something, in a month, you got something, and you just have to do it. You know, writers write, teachers teach, preachers preach. So if you want to be a writer, you just write. And the key is once you get something written, then you have to put it in a format, because there are certain publishers that won't look at what you're looking at. So you have to be keen enough to find a publisher that will publish stuff that's dealing with what you're talking about. So it's like an article, but persistence. Don't take no for an answer. As I said, I got rejected and I still got those letters. But sometimes I point those letters out to some of those publishers now that call me, want me to write something, and I say, I don't have time for that. But anyway, write. All of you in this room could write, publish books, articles, blogs. Just write, and don't let it be something like I said. It was magic. There's some people think it's magic. No, there's no magic to it. You just have to do it.
Thank you. And I do notice you writing up on the panel as well. All right, thank you.
Hey, gentleman in the gray.
Hi, my name is William Nikiyama. I'm a junior from Thera High School. So I was raised in a small West African country called Burkina Faso. And throughout my time there, and even now, I see a lot of exploitations by bigger nations happening, and there's not a lot of people aware of it. So my question is, how do you go about spreading that awareness of environmental racism to these vulnerable communities, not only in the US, but also globally?
Let me answer that, because we did that in 1991. The group of us, we held the first National People of Color Environmental Leadership Summit. It was in the US, but we had 6 nations. We went to, that was 1991. In 92, we had the Earth Summit. We had our 17 principles of environmental justice that we adopted in the US with delegates from 7 nations from Africa and Latin America. We went to 92, those principles were translated into a half dozen languages, 1992. Now, this is a long time ago. And then Rio plus 20, the meeting was held in Johannesburg, South Africa, 20 years after the Earth Summit. There were 13 of us that went to Rio. When we got 20 years later, we went to Johannesburg, Rio plus 20. Thousands of people now work on these issues. That was in 2022. Last in November, at the COP27 meeting in Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, when our 3 HBCU graduates from Howard University, Peggy Shepard from Beverly Wright, graduated from Grambling, and myself, graduate of Alabama A&M and Atlanta University, we were able to host a climate justice pavilion at this COP meeting, United Nations climate meeting. And this is the first time it's ever held. And at that meeting, what was driving that whole conference was climate justice. And not just environmental justice in the US, but climate justice. And the theme of that conference on the continent of Africa, first time that this issue had been raised to that international level, was loss and damage, climate finance, reparation, and addressing poverty. And we insisted, the environmental and climate justice leaders from the US, in collaboration with our brothers and sisters from developing world, and since it was on the continent of Africa, the African delegations led a lot of the work in our climate justice pavilion. We were able to get, for the first time, the United Nations COP meeting to deal with loss and damage. Loss and damage is nothing more than climate change having a tremendous impact right now on nations, developing world, that have contributed least to the problem, but are feeling the pain and hurt worst, first, and longest right now. We were able to get the United Nations, and we were able to get the United States, who were against this policy, to sign on to it, to have this climate fund where the rich countries put in the money to deal with climate change that's impacting these countries that are most vulnerable and have contributed least, to put in that money to pay for and to create a much more resilient whatever. And your country, your nation, and those other nations that have contributed least to the problem of the damage will benefit from that. And at COP28, which will be in Dubai in November of this year, we expect to have another climate justice pavilion. We expect to have more and more of our partnership nations and more of our students from the US, and particularly HBCUs and other Hispanic serving institutions, native indigenous universities at that meeting, to push the fact that these rich countries have signed on to it, and they need to put their money where their mouth is and not just make promises. That's what our movement that started a long time ago with demonstrations in North Carolina, in Warren County. We have gone from a footnote to a headline. So the answer, that was the long answer. The short answer is our climate justice framing includes all of those things that you're talking about on a global sense.
Okay, we want to try to fit in as many questions as possible. So this will be the order. Please just ask one short question. So we'll go with the second lady. You've already asked yours. You have to circle back. The second lady in line here, then this young lady over here in the black, and then in the white. So let's go in that order.
Good morning. My name is Camelia Moses Okpodu. I'm a professor at the University of Wyoming. Thanks for the panel. It's really informative. I would like to let everyone know that I will be actually having a virtual one-day climate conversations, a focus on Haiti on April 21st this year. You can find it by simply Googling my name, Camelia, C-A-M-E-L-L-I-A, Okpodu, OKPODU.com, and you'll be able to see Climate Conversations 2023. We're having a conversation about how we focus on Haiti using data science as a way to address the issue. We also are doing a metagenomics project, so I would like to talk to the young lady from Arizona to find out what soil kit she used, which is be the best, because I need to order that today so my students can actually isolate 16S ribosomal RNA to do the kind of analysis we need to do. And to my cousin who's from Robeson County, I'm from Brunswick County, and I know it pains you to say, I think you must have been at NC State. If you were 2 hours from Pembroke, you must have been at NC State, and it's okay for Duke to say NC State.
Okay, thank you. Young lady over here, and then in the white. And we feel free to share your announcements on our Hoover app. Upcoming conferences, please use our Hoover app to share any amazing opportunities. Thank you for sharing that, Camelia. Here, and then we'll go here.
Hi, my name is Akila Daughtery. I come from the illustrious North Carolina A&T State University. Aggie Pride, yes. My question is, why are we getting funding to help our communities now rather than like 10 years ago?
Racism?
But like,
There are a lot of sort of long-term structural challenges with why there hasn't been funding that's been more equitably allocated. That's an entire other panel, entire other conference, probably. I think what's important is to focus on what we can do with the money that we have now and how we continue to advocate for increased funds and increased flexibility with funding.
Let's cut to the chase. Let's not dress it up. Why? Is because these issues were not seen as important. It was okay to dump poison on Black people, people of color, Indigenous people, and not put money in infrastructure to protect us. Why? Is because when the money went out for solutions, our universities and our people who look like me were locked out of the room. Why? Is because, and why is the money coming now as opposed to 40 years ago or 20 years ago? Is the fact that we have new movements now. I'm a baby boomer, fighting and still standing, proud of it. U.S. Vietnam era Marine Corps vet, hoorah, proud of it. But we have been fighting for many years to get justice. But the fact that the last 3-4 years, our movement has come, justice movement has come into its own because of Black Lives Matter and the awakening of justice movements. Let's be real about it. And the fact that when we stood in those long ass lines and voted and we won, do you hear what I'm saying? And we were made promises. And when Justice 40, the president's initiative to talk about 40% of, as we transition to clean energy economy, 40% of those benefits are targeted for what they call disadvantaged community, but we know what disadvantaged communities are. When we talk about Inflation Reduction Act, you know, $470 billion for however much it is, and $370 billion is for climate. We never had $60 billion for environmental justice. We never had $60 billion for clean energy transition. But the fact is now our movement is much powerful in terms of moving from the laboratory and moving into the community and translating that into political power and clout to make sure that money follows need, as opposed to in the past, and I've documented this in formula, money follows money, money follows power, money follows whites. What we're doing now is money following need, and as we transition to 2045, this nation will be majority people of color. We don't need to wait to 2045 to start funding those areas where we know we're gonna need leaders, scientists, and all kinds of folks. NSF, AAAS, all of them know that, and we need to make sure that we do a good job about color coordinating the money.
Okay, well, in the white, you'll be last. I will amend my announcements and make them very brief so that anybody else that has questions can come up after I make very brief announcements. I'm sorry, go ahead. I'll let you answer, and then in the white, you'll be the last, and we can resume after my announcement.
I just want to add it in that I also think the visibility and the representation of Indigenous peoples in some of these higher offices, like Deb Holland is the Department of Interior Secretary. I'm forgetting his last name, but the new director of the National Forest Service. Also, those people in these positions is highlighting and using and leveraging their positionality to bring attention to these. And so I think I'm bringing this up because I think our pathways in science can be meandering, and sometimes having your passion of science and of data and applying that into political positions or policy positions are also really valuable ways that we continually make waves of change. Thank you.
And Ryan, did you want to respond before we go to the last question?
No, I think that was very well stated.
All right. Okay. In the white.
Yes, first I wanted to thank all of you for your contributions on this panel. As someone who has a lot of family from places like Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi, rural Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, I have a sort of deep appreciation for what was spoken about today. If I were to sort of bring my thoughts into one question, between corporate interest groups, between just sort of the funding and where money is being put currently in our country, there's a lot of forces that are working against you as environmental justice advocates. What would you say is your most challenging hurdle, and how do you or did you work to overcome it? And I would say, I'll start with Mr. Bullard, because I know you've done a lot of work in the South.
You're from Louisiana?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Louisiana is ground zero. And Texas is ground zero for the stuff that I'm talking about right now. The challenge, the biggest challenge right now is trying to break through the apathy wall, or the you can't do that wall, or they're too big to fight wall. And we say, no, they're not. We have taken on some of the biggest ones, and we have bankrupted them when they want to poison us, kill us, and put stuff on top of us without us asking. And so I say, the organizations that we're working on right now, Bloomberg Philanthropies, kicked off an $85 million Beyond Petrochemical campaign. Our center, the Bullard Center for Environment and Climate Justice at Texas Southern University, we received $2 million from the Bloomberg Philanthropies. Deep South Center for Environmental Justice, which is located right there in New Orleans, Dr. Beverly Wright, her center got $2 million. We have $4 million between our two centers that are located in Louisiana and Texas to work on communities that are up against the wall when it comes to these pollution from oil and gas and refineries. There are a Bloomberg Bezos Earth Fund. There's another one that called us, and we didn't apply. We didn't have to have no long application. It was a Zoom call, gave us $4 million to work on these issues in Texas and Louisiana. We got $4 million, our center got $4 million, and Dr. Wright Center, Deep South, got $4 million. We have $8 million to work on issues around climate, issues around energy transition, health equity, to work in the Gulf Coast states, 5 states, 5 southern states, 5 red states, 5 states that are fighting to take our votes. So you have to connect those dots. That's what I would give advice. Vote, stay in line and vote. And then when you finish voting, make your elected officials accountable. Make them deliver, not just talk, deliver. And if they don't, kick them out, elect some more. This is a struggle. We can win this, but we need enough people who are convinced that we can win and can't say, well, you can't fight City Hall. Yes, you can. You can't fight the government. Yes, you can, when the government is not doing right. And you can be the government. You can run for office and win.
Any other responses from the other panelists? We'll give you closing words in regarding to this question, and then we'll close it out. Take your time, go ahead.
I just want to say that one big challenge is that, I'll be real with you, that little voice of doubt inside me that says, you're a hydrologist, you can't do that. But what I would encourage, whatever that voice is for you, or maybe it doesn't exist, but if it does, find mentors, champions, advocates, coaches. These are all different roles in your lives, and you need people in all of those roles. Find those people, that cloud of supporters that's going to keep pushing you forward. Listen to them with humility, go back to them regularly, and maintain that grounding. And that's been essential in my journey forward. And I think that you can generalize that to whatever that community of supporters looks like to you. Stay grounded to that group.
Lydia, Afua?
Yeah, I just echo what was said. Absolutely find ways to push through when you have those moments of self-doubt. But the other thing I want to say is to also recognize the many different ways that change is made. And so there are many different ways you can affect that, whether it is through your direct work, whether it's through different advocacy groups. We also need people who then are working with these companies that have the $10 million to give. I now, in a lot of my work with foundations who, are like, we have $10 million to give in this. How should we do it? And I say, well, let me write you an application. Let me tell you what you need to have in that process, how you make those decisions. And so affecting that is another way, being able to write policy, being able to write the laws is another way. So just recognize that there are many, many, many different ways that you can find that will fit with your personality and your interest to make this change, because we need to attack it from many different angles, but we definitely can.
Yeah, I think to jump off of Afua's point, in my scholarship, I actually worked with the mining companies and pitched the reclamation using indigenous knowledge as something that's going to make their work more cost effective, and also looking at the patterns of working in not good relations with tribal nations. And so that was something that they really invested in. But I think it's important as you think about these questions, and it's a really important question to ask, but also recognize that sometimes you're going to get labeled an activist. Sometimes you're going to be seen as too radical, right? And I feel like when you get in that space, that's actually a really great, because you're pushing the boundaries of what's common knowledge. But it's important that you understand what those boundaries are and how to navigate within them, because that's how you start to find your co-conspirators within the academy or within the field that you're working within, and build these mentorship networks that Ryan was speaking of. And so I think, again, there are many different strategies, and it's what are you comfortable with? What is your skill set, and where do you need to build upon others? But this work is very meaningful, and you know that you're creating the future that you want. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the panelists. So I have some brief announcements. Next slide, please. So we want to make sure you have enough time to transition to our sessions that are starting at 10 a.m. And then our student oral and poster presentations are also starting at 10 a.m. as well as our concurrent workshop sessions. So meet us back here for the lunch plenary at 12:15, and then our remaining plenary, the fourth plenary will be Saturday, tomorrow, starting at 5:30 instead of 6 p.m. And again, these are listed in your Hoover app, but the 2 sessions on today and the 2 student oral and poster sessions on tomorrow. For the orals, definitely check Hoover. We sent the presentation schedules to all the students, but you can definitely find all of that information on the Hoover app. And I definitely want to highlight our AAAS opportunity session that will be starting at 10:15. This is open for everyone. So if you want to learn about fellowship opportunities, awards for faculty and PIs, it's for students, faculty, PIs. We have a number of opportunities that we'd like to share with you that AAAS manages. And I also definitely want to highlight, especially for the students, we have a focus again this year, as we did in 2020, highlighting professional STEM societies. So we really want you all, if you're not currently a member of your disciplinary society, please get that information here. We spent, a lot of resources creating special ribbons for all of the different disciplinary societies. And we definitely want to highlight that. So if you did not pick up your ribbon, definitely go back by the registration area and pick up your ribbon, just so that you're represented. Even if you're not a member, pick up your ribbon for chemistry or physics or whatever that is, so that you just begin to associate with your professional STEM societies. So today from 4 to 6 p.m., I think it's in the ambassador room, but check Hoover. We will have a societies fair. So each of the organizations will have a table where you can come and learn more about the different professional societies and associations associated with your discipline. So please check out that societies fair from 4 to 6. So I think those are all the announcements that I have. If there are any remaining questions for the panelists that we didn't get in, feel free to come ask them questions if you are not headed to sessions starting at 10 a.m. See you all back here at lunch. Thank you.